The Faceless Palace. The Ravenmoor Palace stood like a forgotten giant against the night, its spires lost in the swirling mist. The village below remained lifeless after sundown, doors locked, windows shuttered, prayers whispered. The legend was clear: never walk the palace grounds after dark. Those who did never returned. But Edgar didn't believe in ghost stories. The gate groaned as he pushed it open, a sound like a dying man's last breath. Cold air brushed against his neck, and for a moment it felt like fingers tracing his skin. He shuddered but shook it off. Inside, the palace was eerily silent, no wind, no movement, just the sound of his own footsteps. The portraits along the hall watched him, eyes that seemed too real, too knowing. The chandeliers above swayed, though the air was still. Then, a voice. "Edgar?" He froze. At the end of the corridor, bathed in dim moonlight, stood Lillian, his younger sister. But she couldn't be here. She was supposed to be miles away. "Brother, come with me." Her voice was too soft, too sweet. His stomach twisted. He stepped forward, but something held him back, a primal fear clawing at his chest. He focused on her face. Her smile was stretched unnaturally wide, her eyes dark, empty voids. Then, she took a step forward. Her movements were jerky, unnatural, as if something was wearing her skin but didn't quite know how to move. A shadow shifted behind her. Something was there, something waiting. Then, the whisper came again. "Come with me, Edgar." And before he could react, the candles along the corridor flickered out. Darkness swallowed everything. The candles flickered out. Silence. A deep, unnatural quiet that pressed against Edgar's ears. His breath hitched, his pulse hammering in the pitch-black corridor. Then, a whisper. "Why are you scared, Edgar?" The voice came from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, the darkness itself. Cold fingers of dread crawled down his spine. Then, footsteps. Soft, measured, coming closer. He swallowed, his throat dry as sandpaper. He forced himself to move, stumbling backward until his back hit the wall. Moonlight seeped in through a tall window, casting a long shadow in front of him. Lillian's shadow. But something was wrong. The shadow wasn't hers. It was twisting. Its limbs stretched, its head elongated unnaturally, flickering like a flame. "Come with me, Edgar," she whispered again. But her mouth didn't move. Edgar's shaking hands found his pocket, his knife. If this thing was playing tricks on him, he'd fight. He gripped the handle, another voice, behind him. "Edgar, why are you afraid?" His mother's voice. He spun around. There she was, his mother. And beside her, his father. Both standing unnaturally still, their faces pale, eyes dark, smiles frozen. "Come with us." His breath came in sharp gasps. This wasn't real. Then, more figures emerged. His old friends, his childhood nanny, people from his past, all of them just standing there, watching, smiling. Their mouths moved in perfect unison. "Come with us, Edgar, come home." The walls shifted around him. The paintings on the walls blinked. The chandeliers swayed violently, though there was no wind. And then, a mirror. At the end of the hall, an enormous dusty mirror reflected the horror. But something was wrong. Edgar wasn't in it. Instead, his reflection was already smiling. Not a normal smile, a grotesque hollow grin, stretching too wide, too inhuman. And then, it stepped out. Edgar screamed as his reflection grabbed him, cold hands pulling him inside the mirror. The last thing he saw before the world turned black, his other self turning back toward the figures, grinning. "He's with us now." The palace stood silent once more. A new whisper joined the others. "Come with me." Want more chilling tales? Subscribe now.